Alright, now we're going to go on to two more movies, one of which is a Golden Globe nominee for its lead actress. So, going into that, I think we're going to start with I Care a Lot, which is the movie that Netflix just put out with Rosamund Pike, who's the one that's nominated. And this is a movie that I pretty much went into entirely blind, not realizing that that would be beneficial for the kind of story that this is. This is one of those stories where I guess I can warn you now I'm going to kind of try to dance around because I'm really not sure what one would consider a spoiler. Because there's already kind of surprising things and developments happening early. And that's the kind of thing that like really pulls you in, and these are characters that you kind of keep you interested, and it's sort of this characters kind of weave in and out of it, and you're wondering where it's going, and it really kind of keeps you there, and it kind of keeps you guessing where it's going to go next. And I was really into it for a while. Uh, but maybe not so much by the last, 20 minutes or half an hour or so. But there is something really strong here and really interesting, particularly in the setup, where you look at that, and it might be a place that some people are hesitant to go towards because it's the whole idea of all the stuff you see in real life with older people and how older people tend to attract money hungry predators, basically, whether it be scammers or guardians or whatever. Um, and it takes this and makes a black comedy concept about Rosamund Pike and her whole crew of people who have this very, basically, to put it simply, one of those elaborate schemes where she appoints herself a guardian to older women that may be going, older men or women, in the main case, a particular woman. Um, and whether like they're close on the verge of dementia or something like that. She also has a doctor in her pocket as well that brings all this together, and she's really buddy buddy with a judge, and all of this leads to her being able to bleed dry these older people while appointing herself their guardian. And what's really interesting about this, when you look at scenes like when she, is buddy buddy with the judge, is that when she's explaining to a court why she needs to be the guardian to these people, it's already been established that this is an evil character, but this is, and it's obviously there's going to be echoes and comparisons for sure to her performance in Gone Girl. Um, which I wasn't as like her performance in Gone Girl. I wasn't as like falling over myself in love with as many people were. But I do like it a lot. And she is doing something similar here. But what I really like is it's kind of a reverse of that, where we know right up front that she's evil, and then it's kind of seeing how she hides that from the people that she needs to. So what's interesting is when you watch her performance in the courtroom when she's describing to the judge, who doesn't know about these schemes, why she needs to be their guardian and do all these things. If you didn't know any better, you wouldn't even question her motives. Like, she would just look like a very concerned and very caring person, as the title refers to. And that's where a lot of the kind of brilliance in this performance comes from. I will say this is kind of bogged down a little bit by the opening narration. The opening narration is the really cringy shit where she's bombarding us with her own opinion of herself, telling us, the audience, how evil she is and how bad she is. And it's how bad of a place the world is and stuff like that. And it's really... They definitely establish her as a bad person and an evil character just through her actions. The narration is laying it on way too hard. And like I said, it's just really, it has this sort of like this sort of cringe factor, because you can tell they're trying to make it seem like it's this super hard ass character that's gonna shock audiences when they realize just how bad she is. But the thing is, throughout pretty much the whole movie, she's telling us how bad she is when we're clearly watching it, and that gets really old really fast. Um, but that's not to say that the character is not that thing. So there is that. And the woman I refer to that she is going to do her next scheme on is Diane Waste, who it's always great to see, who's always been amazing. There's a reason she has 2 Oscars. And she's really great here just right from the beginning. Because we already kind of got the vibe of what the schemes are, but this is the first time we kind of get to see it play out, like step by step, and how they do it. And so when she answers the door, we see it's Diane Wiest, who seems very, harmless, and in a situation like this, helpless, and defenseless. But the thing is that she does get kind of tougher and a little bit resilient when she kind of starts in with the whole, oh no, you have to trust me and you have to come with me and stuff like that. And it's the way Weiss is able to kind of go back and forth between defenseless and I'm a little too smart for this. But she finds a perfect in between where ultimately she does. But the thing is when they get to this care facility, and this is all just the setup. What's interesting about this is the way the care facility is set up and portrayed. It's almost cult-like. Like the way everybody's standing around and being welcoming, weirdly welcoming, but they've got the drugs and everything's kind of ominous, and it's like if this were a story entirely being told from this character's perspective, the Diane Wiest character, this would be like a borderline horror movie, from her perspective, based on this setup. And right here, this is kind of what I assumed the whole movie was, because this can be a whole movie. This setup and how this scheme plays out. But then Peter Dinklage walks into this movie. And then we've got a whole other thing going on. So the thing about that is that this, like I said, this is it was fun to watch going in blind because I didn't know where it was going. But the thing is usually when you feel that in a movie like this early, like in the first 20 minutes or so, you kind of get that vibe of, oh, this is going to be what this movie is. It's kind of a roller coaster where we're going to get, in maybe the next half hour or so, we'll get another unexpected thing and another unexpected thing and so on. But no, once we kind of reach this moment where Peter Dinklage enters the movie, then it's just kind of that. And there's not really anything else that's, a big thing that's going to kind of really hook you and make you wonder how everything's going. And I think the problem here is that Dinklage's character basically brings danger to Pike, not just her operation, but her life. And the thing here is that it's established that she's an evil character. So the thing is, it's like when we have 2 sets of characters here now, and both of them are villains, it kind of starts to become that, Pike is like our protagonist, and Dinklage is the antagonist. But the thing is that there's a way to do that. There's absolutely a way to make a character as evil as Pike's is somebody that you're like, it goes against everything I stand for, but I kind of want to see if she ends up on top or not. I was never even close to feeling that for this character at all. And it ended up making the movie frustrating because it's like, that you can tell that's kind of what they're going for, is you don't have to like the character, but it should intrigue you enough that and make Dinklage's character such a sort of, greater force, that against all odds you start seeing Pike's character as the person you maybe might root for. But I think that's where the movie just really hit the brakes, because it's like, that's just not going to happen for this character. And like I said, this is the kind of thing that has happened before. Where you can actually, feel for a character and kind of see yourself getting swept up in them, regardless of what they've done up to this point, or the kind of person they are. But this, I don't know if it's the level of evil and the heartlessness of it, but it's and they try to play up that thing where her kind of heartlessness and her sort of indifference to life itself is what helps her throughout get through some more dangerous situations because she just doesn't care. But that just kind of makes it worse because it's like, well, if she doesn't give a shit whether she lives or dies, what are we as the audience supposed to do? Because we already don't like her. So where's the tension? That's what we're looking for, is the tension. Because if we felt just a little tiny sliver of wanting to see what happens if she gets away with it, and she betters Dinklage's character, like that's where the tension is going to be if we want that. But if we aren't even close to wanting that, there's no tension to be had here in scenes that are clearly meant to build suspense. And for us to, hope she might get out of these situations. Because Dinklage might kill her or whatever. But it's just not there. It's because you just don't feel anything for this character. And I think another thing, though, is that I think a problem it runs into is that it seems to want to appear a lot more cutthroat than it actually is. Because as it goes on, and you see all these characters that deserve some sort of comeuppance, and just through the whole movie, none of them are getting that. And the thing about it is, it becomes frustrating to watch. But the thing is there's certain aspects of the movie that are obviously supposed to be frustrating, but that's not the kind of frustration it was. And the fact that not only do you just not care about the character, but any danger she gets into, she puts herself in, or makes the situation worse, hence making the danger even more apparent. So it's like, what are you even supposed to get out of this? What are you supposed to feel? I don't know. Because you have Chris Messina come in, who plays a very interesting character that eventually just vanishes from the movie entirely, which is unfortunate, because he's the one that he comes in, and it's like Pike has kind of met her match after we've built up the kind of character that she is and the stuff that she does, and how she basically is under the impression that she's unstoppable, because she's too smart for everybody. In this scheme of hers, is too smart for everybody. And when she's confronted by Chris Messina's character, there's definitely something here. But once again, this is pretty early in the movie, and then we just kind of never see him again. Nothing happens to him. We just never see him again, as far as I remember. And it's stuff like that. But really, mainly, it's, the Pike character and how we're necessarily supposed to feel about her or whatever. And they kind of try to throw things in here, she says once that her mom's a sociopath. And then they give her a love story with one of her partners in this little enterprise that she has. But none of this is none of this makes us want to see her come out on top. But it's it's pretty clear we're not supposed to want Dinklage to come out on top either. So, like I said, I don't really know what we're doing. So, it's like it all just kind of, you're kind of waiting for this one more push, because obviously it's a dark concept. It's meant to be a dark comedy, but like I was saying, as far as nothing really extreme happens to the characters enough to put you on edge, and it's not near as cutthroat as it sets itself up to be. So by the time we get to the hour 15 mark or so, we're just kind of going in circles, and it's like this character kind of gets one up on the other, then this character gets one up on the other, and that's what they're doing. They're not one-upping each other, they're kind of one-upping each other, just back and forth. And so that's extremely unsatisfying to have happen over and over again. until we get to close to our ending, which then the tone is just going all over the place. It's trying to be super serious about itself, and it genuinely wants us to care about her, and it's too easy. You know, you could bring the title in this and riff on it, but it's too easy. Uh, so yeah, and then by the time we get to like the very last scene, the tone is just so far off, and we're so in I just really don't give a shit territory. I liked this movie a lot better before I started talking about it just now on camera. So, going through all this now, I really don't know what we were supposed to get out of it. Like I said, it pulls you in with its concept and the way the things kind of play out there in the first half. Because the first half is really good and really fun about itself, even with the dark territory it kind of goes in. And Diane Weiss gets more incredible as it goes on, as her character kind of... things about her character kind of unravel for us a little bit. But, it's... yeah, I don't know what the hell we're supposed to make of this. But, it's... like I said, it's an interesting concept, and it could be an interesting character, but they just kind of push her in all the wrong directions. And like I said, by the end, it's just way too... the last few minutes of it are like so poorly calculated that I'm just kind of left a bit flabbergasted by it. And like I said, maybe they intended that to a certain degree, but that's not the kind of that's just not the kind of way I feel about it. So let's go on to another movie called Don't Tell a Soul, which I knew a little bit about going in. I knew like the basic plot outline, which I thought was really interesting. Where you have Finn Whitehead and Jack Dylan Grazer as two brothers who are stuck at home with their trashy mom, Amina Suvari, who may or may not be dying. And they're trying to take care of her, but they have no money and they're broke. So they start kind of stealing stuff, and they steal money from these houses that are being fumigated. And as they're stealing from this house, in the opening scene, a security guard just materializes from out of nowhere, and it's Rainn Wilson, and he's chasing them because he saw them steal, and then he falls into a hole, and then the two boys basically have to decide, are we gonna leave him there? Are we gonna get help? Is he gonna rat us out? And of course the big brother is gonna take control over this, because he's the one that's like really... he's an overbearing older brother. He's like violent towards him, and he's just an all-around piece of shit. He's one of the most obnoxious movie characters I've maybe ever seen. And that's saying something. Like that's not even hyperbole. Like I would say you have to just see it, but don't. The very first time we see him in the movie is still when the opening credits are happening, and he comes in, and he like pounces on Jack Dylan Grazer, and he's like pounding on him, and he says, "It's game time, shiznit." That's his first line. That's like the first line of the movie, practically. And that's the character through the whole thing. And then he's like actually violent towards the brother, and kind of strong-arming him into the whole, we're gonna leave him down there because he'll rat on us. But then it gets into this really weird shit where Jack Dylan Grazer's character gets kind of attached. Like he's like lonely. He has no friends, so he's like, they don't say this outright, but he basically says like, oh, well, I don't have any friends, but now I have a friend that can't go anywhere, who has no choice but to listen to me, so I'm going to take advantage of this. And that might sound more dark and disturbing than it comes off. Because, like, just describing it like that makes the movie sound so much better than it actually is. But the thing about it is, and I didn't know, the reason I even sought this out is because, I kind of liked the concept and I was interested in that. A friend saw it before me, and she told me, you have to see this thing. I could talk for hours about how bad it is. So it's like, that's what more of an endorsement than, well, I have to see this now. I have to see how a great start could go so horribly. And one of the things she pointed out that I wasn't really thinking about until afterwards was the fact that Jack Dylan Grazer's character is weird in the sense that he seems like he's meant to be significantly younger than he is. Like, I'm not sure. I have no idea at all how old Jack Dylan Grazer is now. But between this and the weird CGI in it, I have no idea how old he actually is. Shazam is probably the best indication. But he acts like a fucking 6-year-old. And it's like I don't know if we're supposed to assume he's like, like emotionally stunted or what, but it's like, but that's the thing, is it's like this movie would be so much more dark and disturbing if it actually was, a kid the age that it seemed like it was supposed to be. Like, if this was like a 6-year-old kid and then we followed him down the dark directions this movie goes, that could have been really fucked up in kind of a cool way. But this movie's fucked up in all the wrong ways, and that's the thing. It just keeps taking wrong turns and wrong directions relentlessly, like relentlessly. It's okay. I need to kind of get into spoiler territory if I'm going to continue on with this. So I'm just gonna mention that here now that we're going into spoiler territory. Um, there is a twist kind of in the middle where it turns out that, because my first thought in the opening scene was, what is he the security guard of? Why is he just in the woods? Well, it turns out that he's not a security guard. He's actually a dude that just murdered his entire family. And he's been running around in disguise while the cops prowl around town looking for him. And when he realized that they, had money, that's what he wasn't after them to say, hey, you're in trouble. He was after them because they had money. And he was going to kill them and take it from them. And then that brings a whole other thing into it. When we get to a point where this is where the movie had something. Like, this is the point where this movie could have completely redeemed itself. Not completely. But, like the performances, and it's still shoddily made, and all that. And doesn't have very good opening scenes. But, it really had something here. Where I talked about how the older brother just beats on the little brother and basically tortures them. And he's doing a lot of really bad... It turns out that the older brother hasn't been stealing money to care for their mom, which is what he said they were doing. He wanted to fund his own party, and that's what he used it for. He's saying, oh, our mom could die for all I care. I just want to have a party and be an asshole and a douchebag and obnoxious. And that's kind of the last straw. So the kid, Jack Dylan Grazer goes to the hole, and he says, all right, Rainn Wilson, if I get you out of the hole, will you punish my brother? And that's like, that is what the direction this movie needed to go down. And it abandons that alarmingly fast. Once Rainn Wilson is out of the hole, we just go down so many wrong directions. It's like they were intentionally trying to see how many wrong decisions they could make from starting at a great idea. And the thing about that is that it's perfect, because not only is it just really dark and really twisted, but it gets a comeuppance for a character that we've just been tortured by. Not just the little brother, we as the audience have just been tortured by this character's obnoxious bullshit. Like, this idiot is an all-around jackass, and Whitehead's performance is the level of bad to match it. And it's like, not only is it great from a story perspective, but it's like, yes, give us that in return for putting up with this character. And I'll just say it doesn't go down that road. It just completely keeps turning on itself so much. And doing the worst things possible, to the point that you start noticing the other things. Like just lazy writing. Like the fact that the cops they make it a point to show and talk about multiple times that the cops are prowling around town for this dude. The cops really want this guy. So you would think he takes Rainn Wilson to his house when he gets him out of the hole, is what he does. And this is in the daylight. So you would think, okay, if the cops are looking everywhere around town for this dude, how are we? What kind of tension are we gonna get from them getting from the hole in the woods to the house in broad daylight? We skip it. He gets him. He pulls him out of the hole. Cut. They're walking through the front door of the house. So I guess we're just supposed to assume he just dragged very wanted man Rainn Wilson to the house in the middle of the daylight, and he broke his ankle when he fell in the hole. So he's dragging him. But I guess it was fine. I guess they didn't run into any cops. So it's and then that kind of shit just starts to stand out more the more you look at shit like this. And it just goes in like all the unsatisfying directions, and yeah, and like the whole brother there's no payoff. There's no payoff. It eventually gets to the point to where he once he screws over Jack Dylan Grazer, or Rainn Wilson does, he tries to turn the brothers against each other, and to see if they'll kill each other. And that might sound, like I said, like this, just the sounds of everything in this movie sound like they'd be worthwhile if you just see the thing and see how it's executed. It doesn't work at all, like not, not at all, like not even close. And it's just fucking dumb. Like the outcome of this is just so fucking dumb. It's it's I don't I don't know. So this is this is the really tragic stuff. When you have ideas that are like really good and can like really hook you. I guess that's kind of what both these movies are. Even though I was gonna recommend I Care a Lot when I started this, but I don't think I can now. Now that I've kind of looked back on it, but it's not it's much more worthwhile than Don't Tell a Soul is. I'll say that. Now me and my friend were talking about it, and we were talking about the different scenarios they could have done, where if they went down these certain roads, and we talked about how like it could have been like another like if anybody remembers River's Edge with like Crispin Glover and Keanu Reeves and Dennis Hopper, where it was one of those sort of like movies like Mean Creek were like heavily inspired by River's Edge, and it's like, let's say he fell down the hole, and we don't know if he was alive or if he was dead, or if somebody found him or if they didn't. If they just left him there, and then the rest of the movie was that fear of the unknown, of like the guilt kind of eating the guilt, but also the paranoia of, are we going to get caught, and stuff like that. And it's like, is he dead or is he alive, and can my conscience deal with either one? Something like that, maybe. But like I said, if there was a wrong direction to take, this movie found surely every single one. So that's what that was. So I think I'm just going to stop this here. Still got to see and talk about Minari and Pieces of a Woman, which will probably be very soon, and I'm doing Versus My Brother. I've got one more Emily Blunt thing to do, and then all the award stuff. So that should be what all this, and then whatever Owen and Ashley are doing. So so that's not a whole lot to recommend here, but one at least took some right directions, but the other took all the fucking wrong ones. So we're just gonna leave this at this. So until the next thing, I think that's it.